Hey guys, Halina here, and today I'm going to be reviewing WandaVision, so stay tuned. Alright, so WandaVision has concluded its first and probably only season on Disney Plus, and I have some thoughts. So, I don't have a WandaVision shirt. I'm kind of sad about it. I really am. But I figured, you know what? I would wear my Lucille Ball shirt since we're traveling through sitcoms of different decades. So why not? Anyway, back to WandaVision. So how this is going to work is first I'm going to go through my non-spoiler thoughts before diving into spoilers. So that way, if you haven't seen WandaVision yet and you're on the fence about it, you can sort of hear my thoughts about it and then decide for yourself and then not be spoiled, I guess. And then if you have seen it, then you can hear my spoiler thoughts. Yeah. Anyways, whatever. I'm just gonna go into the non-spoiler portion. So, WandaVision is very different from your typical Marvel project. There's very little action throughout the 9-episode run. Like, seriously, very little action. But basically, Wanda and Vision are living their life in small town of Westview, New Jersey, in the style of sitcoms through the decades. Yeah. So we got Marvel on one end, and then we got WandaVision on the other. Like I said, very different. Not necessarily a bad thing. Just different. It definitely has that sitcom feel, but there's definitely this underlying hint of uneasiness that's like sprinkled throughout the episodes, like right from the very beginning. Like there's just this like underlying uneasiness that exists, and it's like, okay, there's something else going on here. So that's really interesting because it's like there's something else going on. Now, as someone who grew up on basically all the sitcoms that came way before her time, like I Love Lucy and Bewitched and everything like that, the early episodes were just like a blast and a half. So I actually loved like the early episodes, but if you are not a fan of those early sitcoms, those early episodes especially can be very, very difficult to sit through because they sit in those sitcom tropes, and they are just very, very sitcom heavy. But I do urge Marvel fans to stick it out. Honestly, stick it out because it's worth it. Trust me. But at least stick it out until episode 4, because episode 4 is really where the show's tone starts to shift. And by episode 5, they found sort of the groove that they want to be in, and they sort of stick with that groove until basically the end of the 9 episodes. So yeah, basically wait it out. I know it might be a challenge, but honestly, they're not very long episodes. So it's not like you're sitting through, 2.5 hours of, Marvel movie, and it's like, okay, I gotta do that for like 3 episodes. No, they're like half-hour episodes and like 7 minutes of credits, because credits, you gotta do all the credits. So they're really not long episodes. So honestly, it's worth it. It really is. Now, if you're not a fan of sitcoms in general, this is where it gets to be a challenge, because I talked about if you're not a fan of the early sitcoms, those early episodes can be a challenge to sit through. But if you're not a fan of sitcoms in general, oh boy, WandaVision could be a little bit difficult, because they really do kind of stay with the sitcoms. Like I said, there is the sitcoms, like, at the surface, but underneath there's so much bubbling underneath the surface, and it's just waiting to, like, seep up into, like, you know, to come up, like, above the surface, and it does. Like, it really does. But it's just like, there's so much more than just it being, you know, tropes of sitcoms. But, you know, there is the whole aspect that they are playing in the world of sitcoms. So it can be a little bit of a challenge if you're not a fan of sitcoms, but honestly, guys, it is such a fun show, and the episodes are not long. So even if you binge all 9 episodes, it won't take you very long, honestly. So much fun. Yeah, it's basically like this whole, like, mask of sitcoms with something else bubbling beneath the surface, and it's just like this pure magic of this bizarre Marvel Studios show that wasn't intended to be the first thing out of the gate during Phase 4, but I think honestly did Marvel a huge favor by being the first thing out of the gate during Phase 4, if that makes any sort of sense, because it is so different from what we've seen. I don't know. I think it's a lot of fun, and yeah. But how watchable is WandaVision if you have never seen any MCU movies? Now, I can tell you honestly, I had my mom watch WandaVision. My mom loves her classic sitcoms. Like, my mom loves, you know, I Love Lucy, Bewitched, Brady Bunch, Parker's Family, all those, like, early sitcoms, you know, all the way up to, like, Full House, you know, Family Ties, all that stuff. Like, basically from 50s to, like, early 90s. She is loving these sitcoms. So I was like, I have to get her to watch this, because she is going to love this show. She's going to be confused because she has no idea who these characters are, but she's going to love it. So I was like, okay, I'll put on the first 2 episodes and I'll see where it goes. If she doesn't love it, if she's confused, if whatever, then I'll just fly through the rest of them solo, like I do basically everything else. And we'll go from there. And I was really surprised when she was genuinely looking forward to every new episode. Like, she was like so enthralled by this show that she was just like, I gotta know what's happening next. I gotta know what's happening next. Like, what is happening? Why is this happening? Like, and I'm like, to see the show through her eyes was absolutely amazing, because I was sitting on the end of, okay, I know what happens within the MCU. I'm looking at it from the MCU angle. Like, she's looking at it from the sitcom angle. Like, the first 2 episodes, she's like, okay, I'm seeing all these references to sitcoms and everything like that. And I'm like, I'm trying to figure out how, Vision's alive right now. Like, because he dead. Like, so to kind of see from those 2 different angles was really amazing. And honestly, my mom has seen no more, honestly, than 30 minutes of any given Marvel movie. Like, seriously, I think she's only seen snippets of maybe Iron Man 2, if I'm not mistaken, Winter Soldier, Avengers Age of Ultron, and Civil War. I think those are the only 5 movies that she has seen maybe 10 to 15 minutes of each. Like, and not even like consistent 10 to 15 minutes of each, like broken up 10 to 15 minutes of each. So her knowledge of Wanda and Vision as characters is like non-existent. Like, so basically she deciphered sort of on her own that Wanda was some sort of witch and Vision was some sort of robot. And basically I just sat there and I was like, yeah, more or less. Like, I was like, I'm not like attempting to go into, Wanda, theoretically got her powers from the Mind Stone, and because I'm like, you know what? Yeah, sure, she's a witch. Let's go with that. Like, I'm just like, you know what? Sure, that makes more sense. Like, if that's how she needs to view it to comprehend it, sure. Yeah, go for it. Now, because she hadn't seen Infinity War or Endgame, there was the need to fill her in on the events of those movies, because there was certain moments within those first 2 episodes that she needed to be like, okay, but hold on, why is this happening? And I'm like, well, because he's dead. Like, but yeah, once she had sort of that baseline for like, okay, Wanda's got powers, Vision's a robot, he's dead, she was able to pretty much follow along. Now, there were obviously references to moments in the MCU movies where she kind of just like looked back at me and she's like, okay, like what's that about? And I'm like, okay, well, here. But overall, like, it wasn't too overwhelming for her. Like, she was able to follow along pretty consistently. But if you are a newbie to the MCU and you are worried about being confused, Marvel Legends, it's on Disney Plus. It has a Wanda episode and a Vision episode, and they're relatively short recaps of these characters' times in the MCU. And there is one thing to note, though, and that is, while there are different clips for both of these characters, a lot of the clips, they do overlap, because the characters' times in the MCU, like, they've been so intertwined with each other that, like, it does feel like you're watching the same clip show, but there are different clips, so I definitely recommend checking out both, even though it does feel like on some level you are watching the same episode. But if you want to commit to watching the entirety of the movies rather than just the clip shows, but you don't want to watch all, 23 movies now, but you just want to watch the ones that are relevant to WandaVision, then I would say, I guess, by levels of importance, I guess that's how we can put it. I would say Avengers Age of Ultron, Avengers Infinity War, and Avengers Endgame. At the top of the list, I would say. These 3 movies, they will help you understand the references and the reasons for essentially why WandaVision is really even happening in the first place. Yeah. So definitely those three. Captain Marvel is a middle ground one. It's a case where you can understand the show if you haven't seen it, but you definitely get more out of the show if you have seen it. So you don't necessarily need to see it, but you can understand more of the show if you have, if that makes sense. But one of the main reasons is you get to meet a young Monica in that movie, and now she's all grown up, and so that's a lot of fun. Civil War. Captain America Civil War is another middle ground one. Again, similarly to Captain Marvel, you can understand the WandaVision without seeing Civil War, but you definitely get more out of WandaVision if you see Civil War. So, again, middle ground. You also get more insight into Wanda and Vision as characters and their relationship in Civil War. So, yeah, again, there's that reason to tune in. But at the bottom of the list, and really the only reason why these movies are here is to give you insight into these characters. Ant-Man and the Wasp, Thor, and Thor the Dark World. So, basically we have Jimmy Woo and Darcy Lewis as characters in WandaVision. So, if you want to know about Jimmy Woo, go watch Ant-Man and the Wasp. If you want to know about Darcy Lewis, go watch Thor and Thor the Dark World. Yeah, it's basically as simple as that. There's really no other reason to do that except to just be introduced to these characters and get to know them a little bit better. But honestly, WandaVision does a good job of introducing these two characters. It's not really necessary to go watch them, but if you enjoy them, definitely go check out the movies. You get more of them. It's great. Yeah. Also, you may have noticed that I put a little picture. I think Marvel or Disney Plus or somebody posted it. I found it online. They posted this ahead of the finale, everything to watch beforehand with like little side notes and everything. Yeah. So it's somewhere on the screen. I don't know where. I'm going to put it wherever there's room. Yeah, so basically just look at that and decide from there. Now, the finale. Without spoiling anything. I'm not going to spoil the finale here, guys. Okay? So, but I want to talk a little bit about the finale because I think a lot of people were a little bit hesitant with it because there was the announcement that WandaVision was tying directly into Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. So it's like, okay, well, if I watch WandaVision, do I have to watch Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness? Like, how much does it actually tie into Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness? Okay, so basically, WandaVision does a good job of wrapping up WandaVision plots. So WandaVision does kind of serve as its own little standalone show. So if you just want to watch WandaVision, you'd be fine. Honestly, you're good to go. If you want that sort of setup for the future of the MCU, including Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, there is that sort of little bit of setup happening. But, yeah, it works both ways, honestly. So there is closure to WandaVision. I know, for me personally, that was something that I was a little bit worried about, too, especially bringing my mom into it. Like, I'm like, I don't know, like, I don't know whether she's ready to branch out into like everything else, but yeah, I think definitely having it sort of wrapped up and contained is a good thing. So, one thing I will say is if you are one of those people that just wants to watch WandaVision and nothing else, like WandaVision is the only Marvel thing you want to watch, don't watch the post-credits scene in the finale. Once we get to the credits, don't go further. If you just want to watch WandaVision. If you want to branch out further into the MCU, then do watch the post-credit scenes. Yes, do that. They set up the future of the MCU. Yeah, so that is by trying not to spoil the finale as best as possible. Now we're going to be moving into spoiler territory. Okay, so if you have not seen the episodes, go watch them. Seriously, go watch them. And then come back here and hear my spoiler thoughts. Seriously, you do not want to be spoiled with this show. Final spoiler warning. Spoilers. Spoilers ahead. Okay? Everybody gone? I loved the effects, honestly, of this show. Seriously, I honestly loved the effects of the show. And how they matched the decades that they were actually in. Like, because we live in a world now where it would have just been easier to just slap present day effects in the show. But by going with the effects of the decade, it added to the magic of the show. Like, seriously, like, the episodes looked like they came from those decades. Like, but one of the things that I really, really, really loved was the aspect ratio change. Like, not just, like, throughout the different decades, like, when we were, like, in sitcom land, but, like, when we were inside of the Hex, it was one aspect ratio, and then when we moved outside, it was a different one. It was, like, this is so meticulously detailed. It was so crazy. Like, I was just, like, blown away by that. Like, I don't know. It was just a little thing that I was just like, this is amazing. Like, I was so blown away by this entirely. The acting. Oh my goodness. The acting for this was stellar by everybody. Okay? So, we have Randall Park and Kat Dennings. They were definitely the highlights of the Sword plot line, while basically being the embodiment of us as the fans. Like, basically when they're sitting there watching WandaVision and Darcy's like, what? I'm invested. It's like, yes, girl, so are we. Like, oh my gosh, they were the embodiment of us, and they were just, like, pure magic to watch. And I'm like, I want them to have their own show. Josh Stamberg, okay? I know, I do not like Hayward. Like, seriously, when he got arrested at the end in the finale, I was like, good, bye. But Josh Stamberg, like, when he did such a great job of playing Hayward, like, seriously, great job. Honestly, Tiana Paris, like, was phenomenal, basically playing, like, 4 characters. Like, she was literally playing, like, 4 characters. Like, because she was, like, Geraldine in episode 2 sitcom, where she was, like, the typical sitcom lady of the 60s. Like, she was, like, you know, sort of that, like, prim and proper, like, PTA lady. And then she was, like, Geraldine in the beginning of episode 3, where she was, like, a bit more spunky. And then she was Geraldine at the end of episode 3, where she has, like, Monica coming through. And then she's Monica, who's, like, a spunky sword agent. And I'm like, Tiana Paris, like, she came through in this show. And I'm like, yes, girl. I cannot wait to see what you do in Captain Marvel 2. Like, yes, come through. Paul Bettany and Elizabeth Olsen. Oh my goodness. These two. They had to do so much, honestly. Like, they got to show off their comedic chops, but they had to be very serious. They got to be emotional. Like, they got to play happy, love, anger, sadness, a combination of all of them. Like, Oh my gosh. But Elizabeth Olsen, in particular, in that first couple of episodes, where she would, like, switch from classic sitcom voice to regular Elizabeth serious voice, I was like, she is doing her thing, and I am like, I am so in love with this. Like, oh my gosh. But I want to talk about Kathryn Hahn, because man, we took that woman for granted. Okay. So, she had a very difficult task, honestly, because yes, for the most part, she was playing the comedic nosy neighbor. Okay? But she had to sell the fact that she might just be Agnes, the nosy neighbor, and not Agatha Harkness, the witch. Like, and honestly, I listened to a lot of reviews and recaps and everything, and some people, they held firm to their theories that she was Agatha Harkness. Like, they were like, I am not letting go of this theory. And a lot of people, though, they swayed, because Kathryn Hahn gave convincing performances. Some swayed in episode 3, when she turned to Herb and was like, no, stop it. Like, where she seemed, like, genuinely, like, terrified of, like, what he was about to say, and, like, that Wanda might come and, like, you know, kill them all. And some swayed in episode 6, where, you know, she's at the edge of town, and Vision, like, wakes her up and is like, she's like, am I dead? Like, there was a lot of people swaying, and man, that is a testament not only to the writing, but to Kathryn Hahn's acting as well. And oh my gosh, like, the acting in this show, oh my goodness. But anyways, the point is, the main cast was on point in every episode, but the recurring cast, seriously, this recurring cast, there was so many recurring characters, and this cast of recurring characters, they were on point too. Like, and it's like, they nailed every single scene they were in. Everybody. And it was like, this show came together because the writing was on point, the music was on point, the acting was on point, the directing was on point. Like, everything was on point, and I'm like, oh, I love this show so much. Okay. Now, while I loved all the characters we got, basically, like, it's the characters that were in the MCU, but never front and center, that got the chance to shine, that I really loved. So, like I said, we got not just Wanda and Vision that really got the chance to shine, but like Darcy and Jimmy and Monica. Like, these 3 characters have been in the MCU before. Darcy and Jimmy were in, like, Darcy was in Thor, like the Thor movies. Jimmy was in Ant-Man and the Wasp. Monica was in Captain Marvel as like a little girl, and it was like, they were never front and center. Like, these were never their movies. Like, and now, like, they got the chance to shine. Like, arguably, you could argue that, you know, Darcy, you know, she didn't get to do much, especially at the end there. But, they really got the chance to shine. And that's what I love about these Disney Plus shows, is that these characters that normally wouldn't get the chance to shine are getting the chance to shine. And honestly, that's all that matters. That's all that matters. I love it so much. Okay. Another thing that I loved. Another thing that I absolutely loved. And it's a big one. We got the first mentions of chaos magic, Scarlet Witch. We got White Vision. We got Billy and Tommy and Agatha Harkness. Yup. All these points from comics are huge things for Wanda and Vision. So it made sense that in their show, these things would make their appearance. It wasn't going to happen anywhere else, guys. It was going to happen in WandaVision. Like, it had to happen in WandaVision. And I am so glad that it did. And a lot of people are going to disagree with me on this. I know they are. But I love that Monica got her powers in WandaVision. It was a risky move. It really was. To give a character that many comic book fans have been looking forward to seeing getting her powers since her introduction in Captain Marvel. Giving her powers in a show that many Marvel fans were skeptical about may not have been a smart move, but I think it actually was, because this allows Monica to go into Captain Marvel 2 with her powers and just sort of jump right into the plot instead of setting up, a Monica's superpower origin story. And I think the way she got her powers and her reasoning for getting her powers, because she was going through the hex so many times and everything like that, I think that makes sense. Like, I'm sure they would have found a way in Captain Marvel 2 to give her powers in a way that would have made sense as well. But they found a way in WandaVision, and I think it makes sense. And I'm really happy that we got it, because now we get to see her in Captain Marvel 2 with her powers fully type thing, and I can't wait for that, honestly. Like, this is going to be a fun thing. I cannot wait. Okay. But honestly, overall, what I really loved was just the plot and the concept of the show as a whole. Like, taking these characters and putting them in a sitcom. But not just any sitcom, just sitcoms through the decades. Like, paying homage to sitcoms in a Marvel project is not something you would normally think of, but it worked. And I think the reasoning behind it, which we learned in episode 8, was because Wanda, she loved sitcoms with her family. Like, that was how they learned English. And it was like, yeah, that's a real thing. Like, people learn English from watching TV. Like, so it made sense that way. But it's like, yeah, she's grieving. She's lost everything. Naturally, she creates a sitcom world. And why Dick Van Dyke in the first episode? Why does the house look like Dick Van Dyke's house? Because that's her favorite. And it's like, it's like, I love this, but I love the fact that we really truly had no idea what was going on, really, until episode 8. Like, we kind of had, like, hints, but really truly until episode 8, when we went through Wanda's traumatic past and we saw her basically collapse at the plot of land, and just all the chaos magic beaming from her and creating the house and creating the town of Westview into this 50s style sitcom. I love that. I mean, sure, could we have gotten it a little bit earlier? Maybe, but I don't know. I love that we didn't have a clue really until much later on. Like, I don't know. For me, I love that. Like, I don't know. I think the week-to-week format for this was what was truly the best, because it allowed for the speculation, honestly. Like, yeah, I speculated. I had a whole thing of speculation. I was wrong every single week, but, I'm not taking it personally. Like, I'm always wrong, so. But I want to talk about the things that I wasn't too fond of. But really, it's only one thing. Really, only one thing. Because I was able to let most of the things go, because I was just like, I'm just so enthralled by this show. Like, I love this show. But there is one thing that drove me insane. And it drove a lot of fans insane. It wasn't just me that this drove insane. Okay. Evan Peters was brought in episode 5 as Pietro Maximoff. Great. Okay. Alright, so we are going into the Multiverse of Madness. It's tying into Multiverse of Madness. Alright, Kevin Feige, I'm following you. Okay. Okay. Alright. Then we get episode 8, I believe, at the beginning, when Agatha's just like, oh yeah, I was just basically like possessing him. And it's like, okay, but that doesn't mean that it's not necessarily, Peter from the X-Men universe. It still could be. And then episode 9. Episode 9. The finale. Right there. We're right in the home stretch. Evan Peters is Ralph. Ralph. He's not Pietro. He's not Peter. He's not from the X-Men. He's just Ralph, the neighbor. Look, I didn't need a whole confirmation thing. I really didn't. I didn't need a whole, Evan Peters monologue about him being like, oh yeah, I'm from the X-Men universe. Like, I didn't need that. I really didn't. I just needed something. A hint. A little sprinkle of something. Like, look, Agatha and her monologue in episode 8, or whatever it was. Like, when she's like, I possessed him. It's like, she could have said I pulled him from somewhere. I pulled him from somewhere else. Literally. I pulled him from somewhere else. I would have taken it. I pulled him from somewhere else. Look, we could draw our own conclusions from there. Or, when Monica basically pulls the necklace off of him that's basically, like, possessing him, he can literally say, how did I get here? Signifying that he's not from here. Something. Anything. Like, I feel like just making him Ralph, the oh-so-normal and conveniently placed neighbor to Wanda, just added more plot holes than anything else. Like, there was no reason for it. None whatsoever. No reason. I didn't need the confirmation. I just needed a hint. And Ralph literally could have been that off-screen husband. Like, the oh-so-typical sitcom off-screen character that is always mentioned, never seen. That would have worked out better for me. I would have been happier. Look, I let a lot of things go. This one, I ain't letting go. You don't cast Evan Peters and not do anything with him. No. That's not going to work. That's not going to work. No. No. That's not happening. Okay. Moving on from that, the characters' final arcs. So where they ended up. So I'm only going to basically cover sort of our main characters, I guess, and then go from there. And yeah. Darcy. Well, she crashed her little funnel cake truck into Hayward's sword truck. Told him, enjoy prison. And disappeared. That was it. We got nothing out of Darcy, though, like in the finale. Like, there was nothing. And it was like, I feel like we could have gotten more out of Darcy. Like, I really do. I need Darcy to pop up again. I really do. Hayward is in custody because he literally sent in a murder bot. Yeah, bye. Peace out. Jimmy is in charge of sorting out the Westview mess. Yeah, he's basically on sort of cleanup duty. Like, he's in charge of the FBI now, it sounds like. Yeah. I don't know. I hope we see him again, too. Well, Jimmy and Darcy need their own spin-off show. That's all I'm saying. Because they were a fun duo. Agatha. She's depowered, I think. I'm gonna go with yeah, because I feel like we did not do a whole lot of good if we didn't depower her at all. And she's living in her own little prison. Not a real prison. A Westview prison. As the character she chose to be originally. Yeah, Wanda's like, no, you ain't getting out that easy. You're gonna be Agnes. You're gonna be the nosy neighbor. Oh my gosh, Catherine Hahn's amazing in this. Like, you could see the desperation in her eyes as, like, Wanda, like, just basically, like, taps her forehead and, like, puts her under the trance and is like, I don't want to be here. Yeah, Wanda basically promises that no one will ever bother her again. I'm like, I don't know if you're qualified to make that promise, but okay, let's go with that. But before Wanda puts her under the little spell thing, Agatha warns that Wanda will need her. And Wanda says, well, then I'll know where to find you. Are we going to be seeing Agatha again? Gosh, I hope so. Please. I need more Catherine Hahn in the MCU. And we know that Wanda is more powerful than Doctor Strange now. Thanks for that. So maybe Agatha's gonna be a mentor to Wanda, like in the comics. Maybe. I hope. Look, I'm hopeful. Am I crazy to hope? Yeah. Am I hopeful anyways? Yeah. Anyways, Monica basically is brought into the movie theater, and the agent, the police officer, I'm gonna go with agent because it looks like we're dealing with FBI type thing, that brings her in, reveals herself to be a Skrull, and informs her that a friend of her mother's needs her up there. And I am so happy. Captain Marvel too! Yeah, my money is on that friend is Nick Fury, because we saw Nick Fury up there in space in Spider-Man Far From Home. So, yeah, my money is Nick Fury. White Vision. Yeah, the murder bot. Got the memories of Vision. Claimed he was Vision. Flew off. That's it. Yeah, probably gonna see him again. Just no idea when. Vision, Wanda's Vision, Hex Vision, WandaVision Vision, shared a tearful goodbye with Wanda, telling her that they will say hello again before disintegrating with the Hex. Guys, I sobbed. Why? Okay. I'm sure we'll see White Vision again because we got that promise. We got that promise. So, we're going to see White Vision again. On some level. Tommy and Billy. They too disintegrate with the hex. We don't actually see it. But it's a safe bet because they were disintegrating in the town square along with Vision. Yeah, that scene alone had me, like, feeling like, you know, that moment in, like, Beauty and the Beast, the live action one at least, where, like, Mrs. Potts is like, where's Chip? I gotta see Chip. And then they turn into, like, the inanimate objects again. And I'm like, oh, no. They were so close. Yeah, so I'm assuming that they disintegrate with the hex, but we don't see it, and I'm now very, very suspicious about everything. But they're not there when the house disappears, so I'm assuming they're... But we do have hope for them, because we do hear them calling out to Wanda, begging for help at the end of the episode. Is that suspicious? Yes. Is that going to be a problem? Yes. But Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness is happening, so bring on the madness. Wanda. Now, Wanda. She's lost everything. Literally, the people that could have been her neighbors don't even like her anymore. So she retreats to somewhere isolated. After learning that she is the Scarlet Witch and more powerful than Doctor Strange, and that she is destined to destroy the world. Yeah, that's a lot to take in. It's like she took that in an hour. It's like, yeah, I think I'm gonna need to take a 5-minute breather too. So she's sitting outside, making tea, boiling water, while astral projecting herself. So, like, her Scarlet Witch self is, like, in the back room, reading the Darkhold. Yes, the Darkhold. Probably not the best book to be reading, but, you know, choices. And so she's, like, flipping through, and she's hearing Billy and Tommy calling out to her, like, Mom, help. And it's like, yeah, that's never a good thing. It's like, yeah, but, you know, it could have something to do with the book choice. It really could. But, yeah, so basically that's all our main characters, but our little minor characters, the residents of Westview, well, I'm guessing they're gonna go back to their normal lives because the hex has been taken down and they're no longer having Wanda's nightmares, so that's a good thing. Yeah. So, like I said, we got closure with WandaVision. Like, if you were to end in the moment where Wanda says goodbye to Monica and flies off, and you end in that moment, WandaVision has a closing arc. Like, they're done. But if you stick around for the end credits, Monica's end credits scene sets up Captain Marvel 2. And then Wanda's end credit scene sets up Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. But you can also read into Monica's end credit scene could also be setting up Secret Invasion, because Secret Invasion was the Skrulls impersonating Earth's humans. So it could be setting up Secret Invasion as well. It's a stretch, but you know, Marvel has their stuff planned out well into the future. So it's a possibility that it could be setting it up, but I think the setup here is that it's setting up Captain Marvel 2, and potentially whatever happens in Captain Marvel 2 will be setting up Secret Invasion. But I could be wrong. But either way, Monica's post-credit scene sets up Captain Marvel 2. Wanda sets up Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Things are going to get crazy. I absolutely love this show. I cannot wait to go back and rewatch all 9 episodes. See if I can figure out, like, all the clues that Agnes was Agatha Harkness all along. Because, oh gosh, like, I know that they're there. Because I fully believed it. And then episode 3 was when I was like, oh, I don't know. She seems scared. Like, she was looking at Herb. So why is she looking at Herb scared? Like, it's not like she was playing it up for Vision, so... She fooled me. She fooled me. But Agatha all along is a bop, y'all. Man, I love Agatha all along. And it's been stuck in my head since episode 7. And it's going to be stuck in my head for probably the next 5 years, like Let It Go was. So... yeah. Let me know. Did you guys watch WandaVision week to week? Did you wait for all the episodes to be available to binge? Did you just skip the show altogether? I mean, let me know. What did you guys think of it all? What was your favorite part? What was your least favorite part? Did you guys get fooled by Agatha Agnes situation? Like, I'm really curious. Like, because I was fooled. Let me know all of your thoughts in the comments down below. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Click the notification bell so you can be notified when I upload my latest videos. You can check out more Marvel content by clicking here. You can check out more reviews by clicking here. Follow all my socials. The link is in the description down below. And I will see you all in another video. Bye, guys.